Welcome back to Stream Mentor, and in this video we're going to be talking about how to set up OBS to stream on YouTube, Twitch, Mixer, Facebook, wherever you want. So let's get right into it. So you may have watched our first video where we went over all the pros and the cons of the major streaming platforms, in my opinion. You may have watched the entire video, or you may have fallen asleep halfway through. Whatever the case may be, now you're here and you've decided where you want to stream, and now you need to know how to stream. How to stream, what the heck do I do? How do I set up these programs? And this is what this video is for. So we're going to be taking a look at OBS, which was a very popular streaming software and is actually absolutely free. Now there's multiple versions of OBS. There's a Streamlabs version, there's a Stream Elements version. I'm not going to confuse you right now and talk about those. We're going to be using the regular normal version of OBS, which you can find on their website. If you need to know where you can download it, the link is in the description. But without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so here we have OBS. This is the basic OBS. I set it so that it looks exactly how it would look when you first get it and start using it. I'm going to be going over the basics of the program, all the things you need to know about it. And this video can be helpful for new streamers and also even people who have been streaming for a little bit, because I have seen some streamers who are using OBS in not the most efficient manner. So gonna be giving you a lot of information about the program and how to best use it. First things first though, on our first interface here, we have scenes at the bottom left. Scenes are pretty much like they say. So you can have a scene for maybe when you're playing a game. You can have a scene for when you're talking to your chat. You can have a scene for your welcome screen, your intro, different scenes. And within the scene, you can put sources. So these are the elements of the scene. I'm gonna be talking more about that later, but here's your scenes. And here are your sources. If I click on the plus sign here, it pops up different options. So that is how that works. Next, we have your mixer. So here in the middle, this is your mixer for audio. So if you have audio coming from your desktop, audio coming from a song or your microphone, you can adjust the audio levels and play around with some more advanced audio options here. And again, we'll get into all that once we get there. And finally, over on the bottom right, the buttons that we should be familiar with, they're pretty self-explanatory. There is a start streaming button. There is a start recording, which is what I'm doing right now. There is studio mode. So studio mode allows you to change elements in your scenes and your sources without your viewers seeing. So you can be streaming live and decide, hey, I want to change something. You click on studio mode, it pops up your old view and then the new view. And you can change what you want. And then when you go back to it, then they'll see what's going on. So you don't have to be fumbling around on stream if you want to change something. So that's pretty cool. And then of course we have settings, which we're going to dive into right now, and exit, which closes the program. Let's get into the settings. All right, so here we have our settings. These are the basic settings. Most of these are just down to preference on the general settings screen here. So we can just quickly go through them, but most of them again are our preference. Actually, I'm not gonna go through them, but I am gonna highlight one specific thing that you should pay attention to, and that is your source alignment snapping. Now, when you get into placing items in your scene, you may get into a situation where it doesn't exactly go where you want it to go. You can play around with turning snapping on and off, and that way you'll be able to place an item at a corner, or if you turn it off, you can just freely place an item where you want it to be. But snapping is important, so that is something that you want to pay attention to. But the rest of it is just your preference, you know, language, if you want to automatically record when streaming, you know, things of that. I'm not going to go through all this because the video would be too long, but go through that and see what you want. You can enable the system tray, for example. Now let's hop over to the stream section. Stream section is pretty self-explanatory as well. This is where you will be streaming. Now, if you want to stream on Twitch, that is the default for whatever reason, but you can also switch it over to YouTube, Smashcast, Mixer, Facebook. It has all the pretty much options on here. Twitter, everything is on here. If there is something that is not on here and you want to add it manually, then you can switch over to custom streaming server. If you do that, you can input the URL in the stream key. Whatever streaming service that you're trying to stream on should provide you with this information. But let's say, for example, you're going to be streaming on Twitch or YouTube. I'm going to quickly show you where you can find your stream key. So if you're looking to get your stream key on Twitch, you're going to go to your dashboard here, live dashboard, and then you're going to go down to your channel settings. And this will show you your stream key right here. Of course, I'm not going to show you what my stream key is because you want to keep this private. Anyone that has your stream key will be able to stream using your account. So don't give it to anybody. Don't show it to anybody. If anybody asks for it, then no. All right. And likewise on YouTube, you're going to go to your Creator Studio. You're going to go to live streaming over on the left, as you can see, and you're going to scroll down to the bottom. And then you have your stream key right here. Again, same thing. Don't show this to anybody. Don't give it to anybody because if they have it, they can stream on your channel. So now that we know how to get our stream key, one thing, especially on Twitch, you want to pay attention to is the server in which you're streaming on. So now OBS recommends that you leave it on auto, as you can see here. But in my experience, again, I've been streaming for about 3 years now. In my experience, auto may not be the best for you. I say that because for me personally, when I choose auto, it usually defaults me to the US East server. Now I'm in Orlando, so Miami is the closest server to me. So it makes sense. It's going to be the server that's closest to me with the lowest ping, and I should have the best performance. But this server tends to go down quite frequently. So I'll be streaming and then my stream completely stops because the server is having some hiccups. So what I do is I manually go in and I choose the Atlanta server. But that's for me. Again, auto may work for you, or it may be best if you actually go in here and choose a server that you feel works best for you. Play around with it, do a couple of streams on auto, see how it goes. Do a couple of streams where you actually manually pick a server so you know which ones work the best, and then go from there. For a general recommendation, auto should work, but if you're having issues, again, do what I just mentioned and pick some different servers. So moving on to the output screen, this is where a lot of people get mixed up. This is the screen where people are like, I don't know what the heck they're talking about, especially if you're not computer savvy, IT savvy. You're like, what? Encoder, bitrate? I have no clue. I just want to stream. What's going on? Now, OBS does have a feature where there is an auto configuration wizard. And you can use this to help you quickly set up OBS, but I'm going to say you should not use this, and I'll tell you exactly why. We're going to use the auto configuration wizard, and we're going to see what exactly it tells me I should stream with. Now, bear in mind, I'm going to tell you what I usually stream, the preferences that I usually stream with. I'm able with my system, and I'm going to leave some links in the description so you can see what my setup is. But I usually stream at 1080p. 60 frames per second using the highest bit rate that YouTube and Twitch will allow, which is 9,000 and 6,000 respectively. Now, we're going to run the auto configuration wizard and see what it tells me my settings should be. Let's take a look. So here are the results of the test. As you can see, I chose Twitch. It's set to auto, which again, we talked about that earlier. My video bitrate is set to 6,000, which is okay, And I'll show you how to get your video bitrate. It's set to my hardware encoder, which is fine. It's set to recording quality, high quality, medium file size. We could actually bump that up, but I'll show you that as well. My base canvas is set to 1080, which is what OBS is set for. So when you're putting your elements in OBS, that's what it's going to be scaled for. But it's showing my output is at 720. So with these settings, I will be streaming to Twitch at 720p, 60 frames per second. And now I just mentioned that I'm able to stream at 1080p, 60 frames per second with no problem. I stream that every single day, usually without any issues. So we're going to apply these settings for now, but we're going to go back into the settings and then modify them, and I'm going to explain what these settings actually mean. So here we are back at the settings, and you'll notice that now it's a little bit different than the way we started. Not very much, but a little bit different. Key things we want to point out here, we'll just go through each option individually. For most people, using simple will suffice. There's no need to change it to anything else. Using simple will work. Your video bitrate. this is the quality of your stream, and this is dependent on your upload rate. So the first thing you want to do is find out what your upload is. A lot of people may not know. So you can quickly run a speed test, find out what your upload is. So I just ran a speed test. You can quickly do this on speedtest.net. It's pretty simple. And as you can see, my upload is about 22, 23 megabits per second. So now if we go back over to OBS, our bit rate directly translates into upload. So 6,000 would be 6 megabits per second. That's what the upload is. On Twitch, the maximum that you're allowed to stream is 6,000. On YouTube, it's 9,000 if you're doing 1080p. I'm going to leave some links in the description where you can figure out what bit rate you should use, whether you're streaming or if you're streaming with YouTube or Twitch. So now the main point here is that I have 22 megabits per second upload. That is well more than enough to stream at 6,000 bit rate. So again, translate that 6,000 is 6 megabits. I have 22 megabits per second upload. It shouldn't be any issues normally, because your computer is not normally uploading a lot of information unless you're like doing some kind of file sharing or something in the background. Just make sure you don't have a lot of things running in the background and you'll be fine. Based off your speed test, if you only have a 3 megabit per second upload, then you may need to put your bit rate at like 2 or 1.5, something similar to that. But just play around with it and see what you can comfortably stream with without any lag. If your bit rate is too high and your connection can't handle it, then your stream will drop frames, pretty much is how they describe it, which is just buffer a lot. Moving on to the encoder. Now, this is one of the most important parts of streaming, is choosing the correct encoder. A lot of people make this mistake and then their stream suffers. The quality is bad. There's a lot of stuttering going on, and they're wondering like, what the heck is going on? Why can I stream when I see other people doing the same thing? I don't understand. The encoder is important because it chooses what is actually processing the display that is being sent out, the images that are being sent out across the internet. So now there's software. Software actually uses your CPU to encode. And then there's hardware. Hardware uses your graphics card. So now I have software enabled. I have an NVIDIA graphics card. So I have NVENC. I call it NVENC. I have NVENC enabled, but I also have a CPU that has an onboard graphics card. So I have QuickSync enabled as well. So for most cases, if you have a graphics card that is capable, you want to use the hardware option. This is going to give you the best performance with very minor performance detriments. And you may be thinking, well, if I'm using my graphics card to stream, won't that impact my gameplay? Your graphics cards has way more resources than it needs to be able to display a game and stream at the same time. So you're pretty much going to be using your leftover resources on your graphics card to stream with. If you're choosing the software option, that's going to put a major strain on your CPU, which is going to cause your game to lose frames. Your stream is going to stutter. And that's where a lot of people have problems with, because they're using the software option and they don't know that they should be using hardware. Again, 9 times out of 10, you want to use hardware, and that's going to make your stream very smooth with very few setbacks. There are some cases where you could use software. So if you have a dual PC streaming setup, then this option actually would work better for you, because your other PC is dedicated to streaming. You're not playing the game on the same PC that you're streaming on. So this will give you the best quality stream, but again, you're going to be using pretty much all of your CPU to do that. That's why it's best to use this on a dual PC setup. Moving on, your audio bit rate, you can pretty much leave this alone, but probably set it to 128. Again, use the link that I put in the description to figure out what your streaming platform recommends. Usually they'll recommend 128 or 160, 192. Just use whatever they recommend. It's not really a big deal. Now going down here to the recording section, for most people, you can just simply use same as stream, and that will give you a pretty good quality. But if you're looking to, let's say, make professional videos to put on YouTube and edit them up so that they look really nice, and you're not just throwing up like highlights or something like that, then you may want to play around with this. So Instead of using same as stream, you can choose indistinguishable quality, let's say for example, and then recording format. You don't want to use FLV for most cases. You can use MP4. MP4 is a format that's, you know, easy to edit in Premiere and different recording softwares, and you can also usually play it back relatively easily on your computer. So MP4, and then again you can use the encoder that you want to use. So if you're just recording and not streaming, then you may be fine with using software. Like for this video in particular, I'm using the software encoder because I want to get the highest quality, and that's what the software encoder can do. But of course, the price of that is high CPU usage. So anyway, main point here is you can use hardware and then set your quality. You can do high, or depending on if you have a lot of storage space, use indistinguishable, and it'll be even better. Another option that we have here is the replay buffer. So now what this is, this allows OBS to kind of queue up your footage, and if you want to save that footage, you can just press a hotkey. So you can set up a buffer for 20 seconds, and then when you press that button, you will have a 20-second. The last 20 seconds will be saved in a separate video. That's good for like highlights, or, you know, well, pretty much highlights and clips, things of that nature, if you want to have those at your disposal. And you can customize it for how long you want it to be, you know, a minute, 5 minutes, and you can also set it for how much memory you want it to take up as well, because it will take up some extra resources on your computer to have this enabled. Me, I don't personally use it. I stream on Twitch. We have a pretty good clipping system as well as a pretty good highlighting system, so I don't really do that, you know, on the fly. Next, we're going to take a look at the audio section, and this is pretty straightforward. You really don't have to do much here. For your desktop audio device, you want to make sure you have this set for default, and then that's going to pick up your desktop audio within OBS. And then the rest of the options you can usually set for default as well. As long as you have your computer's audio set up correctly, meaning you have your devices set as default and things of that nature, and then you can just come in here and set these as default as well. So make sure you have your desktop audio. You don't need desktop audio too. Sorry, ignore that one. And then your mic as well. So desktop audio and mic, set those to default, and then you're pretty good. You're pretty much good to go. And then finally, we have our video settings. So this is something that's really important too. We ran the audio config tool, and you notice that it said that I should be streaming at 720, but I already told you that I stream at 1080p, 60 frames per second every day, and that's what I normally stream at. So this is totally dependent on your computer hardware. If you have a good processor, a good graphics cards, you can bump this up. And a good way to figure out what you can stream at is just to test it out and see what your computer can handle. So you can leave your base canvas, your base resolution at 1080p. Again, that's what OBS will be set for. So most people have 1080p monitors, so set your OBS to 1080p, and you can play your game in 1080p or 1080 resolution, and OBS will scale that appropriately. So leave your base at 1080 and then play around with the output resolution. So right now it's set for 720. What I'm going to do is just drop down, and we're going to choose 1080 here. And then this is your frames per second. Again, most people know what that is. So 60 frames per second. You can also set it to 30, whatever you want. And you don't have to worry too much about this unless you're downscaling, which you may do, but just leave it at default for now, and it should be fine. So how you're going to test this, you're going to record. Simple. If you're recording, then that's pretty much a very close representation to what your viewers will be seeing. So run some tests, maybe try 1080, 60 first, record that, see how it looks, play it back. If it looks okay, then you're good. If it doesn't, start dropping down your values. So if 1080, 60 doesn't work, maybe do 1080, 30, see if that works. If it's still a little bit choppy and you don't like the way it looks, drop this down, drop your output resolution down to 720, 60, see how that looks. And if you can't get that working right, then try 30 and see if that works. Now, I would say in my experience, if you can't stream at a minimum of 720p, 30 frames per second, then it might be in your best interest to not stream right now until you can afford to get some better hardware. Because a part of streaming is your quality. Your quality doesn't have to be the best in the universe. You know, it doesn't need to be super crispy, but a lot of people are not going to want to watch a stream that's at 480. So below 720 is the 480 option. And that's really not watchable in an enjoyable manner. So if you can't do 720, 30 using the settings that I recommended over here in the output section, then maybe upgrade your processor, upgrade your GPU to whatever you can, realistically afford, and try it again. But this is kind of like your base here. This is your base way to stream. And then if you have the hardware and the software and the upload to do anything better than that, then you can bump it up. Now there's two more sections here, the hotkey section and the advanced section. Hotkeys are simply, again, your preference. You can set up hotkeys to do different things if you want to change a scene by pressing a button, something of that nature. I have a Stream Deck, which is from Elgato. I use that to kind of switch between my scenes and different things, but you can set that up in OBS as well if you have a separate keyboard, or if you just want to use different combinations on your keyboard. You can play around with that and see how you like it. Under advanced, there's not much to change in here either. You should probably stay away from this, but there is one setting that is pretty interesting and might help you out. You want to make sure you have automatically reconnect enabled. It should be enabled by default, so don't worry too much about it, but just double check. But there's a new option, enable new networking code. You can enable that, and also enable low latency mode. So if you have a pretty decent stable connection, this may actually help your streams to be even more stable when you're streaming. So give it a try, give it a shot. It's not enabled by default, but it may actually improve your stream quality. Well, not improve the stream quality, but improve the stability of your streaming. All right, so we're actually gonna split this video into two different videos. I learned from my first video to not make these too long, and while I was editing, I noticed that it was probably gonna be about 40 minutes. So it's gonna be a two-parter, with this first part going over all the settings and the second part going over actually scenes and sources and how to set up your overlays and whatnot. So hopefully you enjoyed part one. Part two should be coming out very soon. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and also leave some comments below regarding what are some other topics regarding streaming software that you may want to see cover, or if there's some questions that I did not answer. But hopefully you enjoyed. Again, like, share, subscribe if you're new. I really would appreciate that. But I'll see you in the next video, part two. Take care, guys, and peace out, and thank you for watching. Bye.